All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show, where we are here to answer your questions and just talk to you guys about what we're doing on this slate. Love seeing everybody in the chat. Good to see you all. Burns, we've already spent some time together on tactics, but how you feeling about this slate, man?
It's starting to come together a little bit better than it was about 2-3 hours ago. So, yeah, it's starting to come better, a little bit better.
Was there a dramatic change that happened, or was it just like an internal thing? You're just like, okay, I'm seeing it clearer now.
I think I'll be off that Cleveland game entirely. Other than a couple of pieces on the Kansas City side, I'm probably off of that game entirely. Came off of Mahomes. But I'll still have Kelsey. Kelsey coming back to Cleveland, that's going to be a thing. So,
yeah, sure. Tattoo, I know you've been crushing the NHL streets. You're repping the hoodie today with the Oilers. How you doing, man? How you feeling about the slate?
Pretty good. Few spots I like that I think will certainly be low owned, and I will be attacking.
Okay, good. Love to hear it. Raz, second week back. Are you feeling like you have a good handling on everything, or how are you feeling about things?
I'm still trying to navigate my way right now. I'm too heavy at quarterback. I need to find a way to eliminate some guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll definitely talk about that on this slate. Good to have everybody. Carlos was early, got his question in before the show started. Not saying to take a hint, but take a hint, y'all. We don't get to a lot of questions, but if you come early, we are here for you. But Carlos said, good morning, guys. Always the first question. Single entry quarterback, receiver, and who are your bringbacks if you have one with that stack for single entry? We're not even going to talk about that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But quarterback, wideout stacks. Raz, who are you looking at?
Probably going to end up being Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson.
Okay.
Or Devontae Adams. I'm going back to Aaron Rodgers, even though he hurt us a while ago.
Yeah.
He's the one that I'm heaviest compared to the field as of right now. So
hey, I like Rodgers today, but heaviest? That's wild. All right. Burns, I feel like you might get us off the Aaron Rodgers talk 4 minutes in. Who are you looking at for single entry stacks?
I think I'm going to be going with Joe Burrow this week, him and Chase. I'll be off of T. Higgins in that single entry. So it'll just be Burrow, probably Chase, Chase Brown, and Jamar Chase. And then no bringbacks. I don't like anything on the Tennessee side outside of potentially Calvin Ridley. So,
yeah, okay, I get it. I didn't get to Burrow, but I did force in some Chase. I think we've seen him be explosive in this spot before. Tattoo, who are you looking at? Someone different, or are you with these guys?
No, I'm looking at somebody different.
Okay, who are you looking at?
Well, I like Bo Nix, and I do like Joe Burrow, but I'll be going with Cooper Rush.
The hell? I was just like, yeah, Tattoo, man. I hear you. You're saying some wise things. And then you pull out the fucking Cooper Rush.
CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson and come back with Thielen.
I mean, that's definitely a low-owned sneaky stack. I can't be me, but I hear you, man. So, yeah, I like CeeDee Lamb. I get that. What kind of got you on that play? Anything in particular?
Rush has been throwing the ball a lot. If you look at his game log, he's right about 20 points every game. He's been throwing it a lot, and he's playing Carolina. So, I don't think he's going to put up 30-some points, but I think he's good for 20 to 25 points, which, at 5,200 can let you fit in some other guys. So,
if that game, I do think the total on that game might be a little low. If it's back and forth, you might not be that crazy. I'm playing Bryce this week, so I can't even get mad at you for playing Cooper Rush.
Diggs is out. So
who? What was that?
Diggs
for
Dallas.
Good.
Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, so matchup's a bit softer for Bryson crew, which is sweet. All right. And then for me, when it comes to single entry quarterbacks, I'm looking at Daniels or Kyler Murray. But I'm leaning towards Daniels, and I am forcing him in there of Terry McLaurin. The lines are a little tough to make, and I'm still making some changes and edits there, but that's my favorite. And then outside of that, yeah, we'll talk about some of the other guys as we go through the show. All right, we're getting some good examples early. So we had Carlos putting in questions before the chat. Savage, appreciate the dono here. That's another way of getting your question highlighted. He said, gentlemen, what are your flex percentages in the DS? What are your top 5 stacking options? And what are the projected ownerships looking like this week? You guys fucking rock. I love Burns the GOAT. You're not wrong, man. Crushes it on a weekly basis. He's had multiple top 10 milli maker finishes. Definitely someone we want to take advice from. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So this is the domination station. This is our optimizer for DFS Army. If you're interested in having access to this optimizer and answering this question and being able to make some of the changes that we are, feel free. Click the link in the description. Use promo code Razzle, RAZZLE, for a 10% discount for that if you want to. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Flex percentages in the domination station. Tattoo, what are yours looking like this week?
100% running back,
Okay.
30 tight end, and 30 wide receiver.
Okay. Going a little bit different. Where are you at, Burns?
I'm at 45% right now, running back, 15% tight end, and then filling it out with a wide receiver.
And Raz, where are you?
50% running back, 20% tight end, and then up to 60% wide receiver.
Yeah, I have a 60-15-60 split currently. I think everyone knows these days the running backs have been crushing it. All right, and then you also asked about top 5 stacking options. We'll kind of talk about that throughout the show, Savage. But what about the projected ownership cap? Burns, I'll go to you for this one because I know you typically have a philosophy here.
Yeah, I'm running at 140 today. I think it's netting some decent exposures to players, and then it's adding in decent exposure to players. So I do like that. Yeah. That's my percentage.
Raz, are you around 140 or did you make any changes here?
I keep moving between 140 and 160, trying all 3 numbers just to see what I'm getting and kind of go from there.
Yeah. I was between 130, 140. I ended up going 130 just to kind of make things a little bit different for me this week. But yeah. What about you, Tattoo? You have any thoughts here?
140.
140. All right.
But now I'm thinking about going down to 120.
Well, is there a reason for the 120 or is it just like a feeling?
Just because you went down to 130, so I was like, fuck it, maybe I'll try 120.
Yeah, you're like, I gotta go lower. All right. Mr. Andy said, I've got Adams, Thielen, and Sutton in my lineup. Should I go Young, Rodgers, or Nix? Leaning more towards Rodgers. Raz, do you want to answer this one?
I mean, I lean Rodgers. I thought Nix was going to be the guy that I was going to be super heavy on. I've kind of come down from that. But of those 3, I'm leaning Rodgers.
Yeah. I would go Nix. Burns, who do you like here?
For me, it's Nix. If I get to the other 2, it's by hand building. But yeah, it's Nix for me. I'm getting probably around 20% Nix.
Yeah, Nix is also a very solid single entry quarterback this week as well. Tattoo, where are you?
On this question right here.
Mm-hmm.
Nix, probably.
All right. Play music, agreed. Helmets up top. That's the logo for DFS Army, for those of you who don't know. Savage, good to see you. Mr. 5, good to see you as well. John asked Tattoo a question. Hopefully, Tattoo can get to that later in the Discord. Eli, good to see you as well. Bobby, good to see you. Hope you're doing all right. Let's see. The Ken Knief said, have a badass lineup, but I need to punt to a Washington turd. Diami or Luke McCaffrey? What do the coaches think? Raz, I want to start with you again here. I don't know why. It's just that kind of day. Do you have a favorite turd Washington wideout?
Man, I'm probably just going to default with the projections and the DS, so it's going to be Diami. Before I started making any changes, he was kind of popping quite a bit. So, but yeah, I mean, coming off a game with 5 targets, and they gave him a rushing attempt as well. It's not terrible. I think there's a lot of random guys that are very similar, punt wide receiver wise.
Yeah, one of those guys that's showing up, but I'm not overly excited about. I'll ask Burns Tattoo. Do y'all have a lean here? Favorite cheap wideout from Washington?
What did Raz say?
Brown. I feel like Brown's really the only guy I'm looking at too, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, I'll go McCaffrey.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, they're turds. I mean,
yeah, they're not great. Any of these guys stand out for you, Burns?
I'd rather have Ertz, but if you can't get to Ertz, then I would say, I guess the D dude.
Yeah. Mr. Nash, good morning. Hope you're doing all right. John said St. Brown or Jamar Chase. Yeah, good question. 2 pricey wideouts. Both have a ton of upside on this slate. Burns, who do you look out first, Chase or St. Brown?
I'm going to have a lot of each of these guys. It really depends on the build that you're constructing with determining which one you want to use. I mean, if you can't get to a certain player that you want to get to, that $800 savings off of Chase to Amon-Ra could be viable. But I think having Amon-Ra today is going to be a benefit. I think this is kind of how they're going to actually work to beat the Buffalo Bills today, is with Amon-Ra. I kind of talked about this on Tournament Tactics. I don't know if he actually needs to get a touchdown to do extremely well, because he is 7,600. Whereas Jamar Chase, to pay off the $8,400 salary, he probably does need to score a touchdown.
Yeah. What are your thoughts here, Raz?
I actually think it's Chase. I mean, I feel better about him as just the one-off part. Like, I prefer St. Brown with Goff stacks, I think. Chase's targets are there. St. Brown's are kind of up and down based on how they're spreading the ball around, and obviously 2 running backs as well. So I think, if you're asking that question as one-off, I just think it's Chase because his targets are more secure.
Yeah, fair. Tattoo, what about you?
If it's a one-off, I agree. I think I'd go with Chase. Because I just like Jameis Williamson.
Yeah.
Today for Detroit. So.
Fair. Tough. Honestly, there's a 1% difference for me between these 2 wideouts. I would lean Amon-Ra for the reasons Burns mentioned, but very close for me. Nice. Hopefully that goes through for us. What defense should we go with today? All right, the defense questions early. Xavier, always appreciate it. Raz, I know it's your favorite question. So what defenses are you looking at?
I'm just going to be overweight on Cleveland with the weather, and we know we've talked about it a few times. We can pick on Mahomes a little bit for some turnovers.
Yeah.
Forcing, kind of lowering my exposure to the Ravens, because they're, even at 3,900, they're projecting as a pretty strong fantasy point per dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really want to spend 3,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah, price tag. Yeah, very expensive. We don't have a lot of value. I get that. Burns, what's your thought process here for defenses?
I'm solidifying myself on favorite defenses, whether they're away or home. I'm looking at defenses that are very strong on the defensive fronts, and they're going against offensive fronts that are very porous, very weak. I'm also looking at defenses that get a lot of turnovers via the interceptions and defensive fumble recoveries. defenses that stand out very well in this in all spectrum that I just talked about: Chargers, Eagles, Broncos, Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. Shoot, I got them all here. Give me a second.
Yeah, good. No.
Cardinals, Jets, Commanders. I pretty much lowered defenses, the Browns, Titans, Colts, Dolphins. I've lowered them all out of my pool pretty much so that they don't show up. Get exposure to the Bengals today. Get exposure to the Texans. The Texans are extremely low owned. I think they're under 2% owned right now. They have of the most interceptions of any team in the NFL this year. So if you look at their game logs, I think they have like 16 interceptions, 7-ish, like 5 to 7 defensive fumble recoveries, and they have like, I think it's like 40 sacks on the year. So these are the kind of things you need to look at. And today I am going full bore on only favorites. I'm Xing out or moving down underdogs.
Okay. Tattoo, what about you? Anyone stand out for you?
I mean, Burns just had an amazing breakdown, so I don't know what I'll add to it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So, yeah, I'll let him take that.
All right. And then Football Jesus said, how bad is double tight end Adkins and Smart? Don't love it, to be honest. That's part of why I limited my tight end double stacks. 2 tight ends in the same line, because I was getting too many really just crappy tight ends together. I'm more okay with it if you're paying up at the tight end position and then you have one of the cheap guys. I don't really like 2 turd tight ends in the same line too much. But what about you, Burns? Or how do you feel about Adkins and Smart in particular, and then double tight ends more broadly?
I hope I don't get any Adkins, to be quite honest with you. I don't really even believe in this guy all that much. I understand the Smart play. I get it. I'm just going to allow him to naturally show up. And then the other guy is Brenton Strange. He's starting to show up a lot. So for Jacksonville, but I think out of all 3 of these guys, it would probably be Smart for me on the 2,500, 2,600 guys.
Yeah, I think that's just the right advice there. Oilers, yep. Way up to you out there. Is Cleveland defense a potential cheap play with weather in? Yeah, Raz touched on that. Not a bad call at all. Let's see. Wasabi, good to see you, JJ. Hope all is well. James said, Burns, any boost to Scary Terry? DS doesn't love him without a boost. You let him the DS decide your receiver fate for the Commanders. What's your thought process here, Burns?
Yeah, you gotta boost him. This is the most viable stacking piece with Jaden Daniels today. I like him, and I like Brian Robinson as stacking pieces with Jaden Daniels, and then have Ertz as well, and as a part of that. So I get it. It's going to cost you about 14,000 ish, between 14 and 15,000. So it's going to be tough, but it's actually him and Scary Terry actually have a really good rapport together. But yeah, that's the way I would go with it.
Agreed. Jay said, what's up, guys? Do you have a receiver that I can play with high upside? Tattoo. And this is on FanDuel, so extra game there. Do you have a favorite wideout on the slate with a lot of upside?
I had not even looked at FanDuel. Let's see. What is it? A low owned or a cheap?
Just a high upside receiver.
High upside receiver.
And the game that's included is the Green Bay Seattle game, so I don't think it changes too much, to be honest.
Probably not. High upside. Jesus. Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm. Do you have one, Raz, that you like? Oh, you're on mute.
Well, Amari Cooper's one of those guys that I'm going to be pretty high on.
Yep.
Based on all the targets he got last week when Buffalo was in catch-up mode, and obviously this game could be high scoring, and if Detroit gets ahead, I expect some more Josh Allen dropbacks.
Burns?
Yeah, I think a couple of guys that could actually potentially have some significant run today. Adam Thielen in the Carolina game. I think he could actually be a pop-off guy. He popped off 2 weeks ago. Another guy that could pop off, it could be one of the two, Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. They could potentially pop off here against a really bad defense in their secondary. And then also, Detroit, gets some exposure to Kahil Shakir, as well as, we talked about him. Yeah, Shakir with the Bills, Williams with Detroit. So these are the kind of guys that could actually pop off.
Yeah. I think you guys are touching on it. I love this 5 to 6K range for wideouts this week. It's filled with a ton of plays I just like. The only guys I didn't hear y'all mention are guys like Courtland Sutton and Marvin Harrison Jr., who I like a little bit less than the guys you all touched on, but are still guys I like having in the mix. So, yeah, good lineups or just good plays. All right. Alex said, just took a look at the implied totals of Chase versus Brown. Team, there's your answer. Okay, let's see. Diego said, who's the lock for 20 max at quarterback? Should I play 2 quarterbacks? Burns, have you looked into this at all?
I typically don't play 2 quarterbacks, but because I play more. But if I had to play 2, basically you would want to this is one, see, narrowing it down to 2 is just really so difficult. For me, it would probably be guys that could have significant upside. One being in the 6K range. I could go with I think Bo Nix could be one. And then you could look at someone like Burrow or Daniels if you can't get make your decision there. Or even Jared Goff in that high flying game that's projected. So that's kind of where I'd probably lay my hat if I had to only select 2.
Okay. Cal said, how do you feel about Breece Hall's workload today? Raz, have you given much thought to the Jets running back situation against the Jags?
I really haven't. I'm going to sprinkle in Breece Hall because I'd feel like if any of them goes off for winning score number, it's going to be Breece Hall. So really, it's Breece Hall probably at, I think I just reran it, so maybe 5 or 6% for me, and that's about it. And definitely nobody else then from the Jets.
Yeah, true that. And then, I think that's probably just the right answer. Burns, Tattoo, do y'all feel differently there? Are you looking at any other Jets running backs, or are you looking at Breece Hall?
No, not really.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, no.
All right. I'm with you, John. I love Bo Nix too. John liked your call, Tattoo. King, man, I hope you're doing all right, man. What tight ends are you guys looking to target today? All right. We're really just going down the list pretty efficiently today. The questions are just lining up with everything. What tight ends, Tattoo, who are you looking at?
I'm looking at Raz's tight end.
You should log off that site.
Oh, God.
You gave me a free month subscription.
Well,
I'm going to take advantage.
That's understandable.
I like Jake Ferguson.
Okay, Jake. Yeah, Jake's pretty good.
Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, Jake, 3,800, yeah. Against the Panthers, 6% ownership, a little chalky, but not bad given some of the other guys on the slate. Burns, I know you like Ferguson too, right?
Yeah, Ferguson's in play today. I also like Dalton Schultz. I got ownership in Juwan Johnson. I'll have ownership in Sam Laporta. Definitely going to have ownership in Kelsey today. He may be the highest I get to, but I do like Trey McBride as well. I'll have ownership in Jonnu Smith. So these are all guys that I'll have ownership to, as well as the 2 guys, the Brenton Strange dude and the Smarties dude.
Yeah. Raz, anyone left that you want to mention?
Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. Both guys are very much in play for me. Hooper, I think, has scored a touchdown in 2 straight. But I'm just going to be heaviest on Stone Smart.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Juwan Johnson's starting to show up a good bit, but I don't love that.
What about Chiga Conku?
Chig? He hasn't shown up for me.
Yeah.
What do you like him though?
I was just looking at him, just cheap and good matchup, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mark Andrews too, even though I don't know why.
Yeah, you feel like he might just be due because he struggled a little bit last week, didn't he? I feel like he did.
Yeah, I
he
think
touchdown. He's been pretty good lately.
He's been pretty good since he got back and stuff.
Yeah, he just struggled against like Pittsburgh and Denver, and those are tough matchups. Giants is a bit softer. Yeah, 4,100, super low ownership. I don't hate that call. Anyone else you want to mention?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, that's true. That combination means it allows you to pay up for a lot. Jesse said, is 10 quarterbacks in my player pool too many? If so, how should I drop them down? By rating? Appreciate it, fellas. Burns, what's your philosophy here?
With the tight ends?
No, for your player pool, how many
Okay.
quarterbacks do you typically like to have? Is 10 too many?
10 starts to get a little rough unless you're MMEing where you have 150 lineups. But, it just depends on how you want to play the slate. Generally, I'm in between about 4 to 8, depending on the slate. I think right now I'm about 7. So,
And that's for how many lines?
20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm at about 7. But how I break them down is all the metrics that are when I put the notes in the cheat sheets, those are all the metrics that I utilize, as well as implied team totals, game totals, favorites versus underdogs. So those are all part of my process.
Raz, what are your thoughts here?
My thoughts are I wish I could get down to 10. It took me a bit to get to 12 right now in my MME main slate wise. I think overall today I have exposure to 14 or 15, but that's early only in afternoon guys that I'm playing only on those slates. Normally I do like to get around 8. I'm just having troubles getting to even 10. So I think 10's a fine number. I'm playing 200 to 300 lineups. So I think 10 to 12 is all right.
I think 10 to 12 makes total sense if you're doing 300 lines. When I 150 max, I prefer to keep it to 8 to 9, and I usually have a winning.
I think we lost Josiah, didn't we?
But 8 to 9 is usually my number. And how I drop them down, just the guys I end up using for my leverage sheets is typically pretty matchup based. There's not one statistic that I look at that narrows down that pool. There's usually just multiple things that help me make those decisions. But I do like to keep it relatively small between 8 to 9 when I 150 max and when I 20 max, because I'm just using the DS. I'm not hand building and making those changes as much like Burns does. I usually like around 2 to 4. But it's been a minute since I've done that. Dan said, how much do you fade chalk percentages wise? Generally 50%, 100%, underweight, etc. Tattoo, do you have a philosophy here?
I guess it depends. I mean, sometimes I'll completely uncheck them, or it could be like I'll take half the field weight, or I might double it. It just all depends on the player, really.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Raz?
Man, I treat quarterback similar to what I treat starting pitcher for baseball. So I try to, whatever I get in my quarterback pool, I try to go to overweight on all of them. Then I very rarely try to match the field in anything. Quarterbacks I'm going overweight on. Generally, I'm going to end up overweight on their wide receivers just based on how my rules and everything work. But I very rarely just try to match field in any percentages. If there's a spot that I really don't understand why it's chalk, and we've talked about it on the show before, I don't mind going a complete fade either. Yeah. Like, I'm willing to do that. It's just I guess, I don't know. Can't think of the word right now, but
McRib.
You know, like, yeah, McRibs, yeah. No, like, I'm just not afraid to be wrong in that, and I can live with the outcome. You know, if I miss on a guy that's 20% owned that in winning builds.
Mm-hmm. And then, Burns, I feel like your answer to this might be a little bit more complex. I know you have specific rules that you follow in general for pretty much each position, and that leads you to fades, not really focus as much on ownership, right?
Yeah, I mean, every metric that I use will determine whether or not that player will actually be a large part of my player pool. So just because a guy, Chuba Hubbard is the most owned guy on the entire slate. At 40% ownership or near there, am I going to full fade him? No, because the matchup on paper is so good for him. So I look at it and then I set my global max at 30. He's going to be in 30% of my lineups, just because of that. He's just going to. It's just naturally going to happen. But if I didn't like him that much, what I would do is I would cap him at like a half of the player. And we talked about this on the Shark Lab show last night. I would cap him at like half, which is about 20%. And then so that if he does go off, I have him in lineups. Whereas if he doesn't go off, then, you know, that percentage of lineups is going to be screwed, but it's not going to kill the 80% of lineups where he's not in it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I would say for me, it's semi-similar, but I don't look at the same statistic every week. It's really just, does that chalk make sense to me? And if it does, I'll be over the field on it, because like Raz mentioned, I typically don't like to just be field weight, but I am okay with it. I prefer to be at field weight or over the field, or full fading someone if I don't like them. But again, if I will only do that at the quarterback position. For running backs and receivers, that's when I'll lower my exposure, usually via max, and be at field weight or below, and then I don't worry about them as much. You really just don't have to overthink ownership too much when it comes to fades. For me, at least, I think it's really the wideout position where I would consider fading the most, because usually, unless you're Burns, the running back you're trying to fade is probably going to end up being the one that goes off. It's easier to predict bad chalk at the wide receiver position because it usually is just bad. Football Jesus said, Burns, do you hate the idea of Smart and Adkins? Then I can just do whatever I want.
I mean, I was getting lineups with Brent and Strange and Smart as well together. I don't like the fact that I have two tight ends that are $2,500 that could both get zeros. So two lineup spots getting zeros is almost like a death sentence. And yeah, they're $5K total, $5,100 on DraftKings, but that's still death to your lineups. That would mean that every single other lineup spot has to net you 30 points. And in today's DFS, that's not going to happen that frequently. So I would pick one and not have two. I'm not even trying to get two of these guys in my lineups, because all three of these guys could literally get 1 point apiece. And they probably have a 95% fail rate today. So it's just, if you want to put zeros in your lineup in two lineup spots, or twos in your lineup spots, then by all means, I mean, roster these two dudes together. And then, but you have to have significant success across the entirety of the rest of the lineup. So that's kind of why I build more stable, more flat, because then I don't have to really worry about this kind of stuff.
You haven't lied about a thing yet. Randy said 4 or 5 quarterbacks in a 20 max. Burns, do you have a preference here?
Yeah, either 4 or 5 is fine. I mean, if you like 5, go with 5. Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable in 20 max.
Phil said Monty or Gibbs. Tattoo.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, fair. Raz.
I want to say Monty,
But
but Buffalo does allow a ton of receptions to running backs.
agreed. Gibbs is the priority for me this week, but I'm over the field on both of them. What about you, Burns?
Yeah, I think I'm. So when I looked at this game was interesting. From a running back perspective, the Buffalo side is completely out for me. I'm just not going there. I just don't feel like they're going to move the ball with James Cook. I mean, Detroit against the run is significantly good. Where they're bad, where they're okay, is just in the pass catching realm of things. When we look at Detroit, though, Buffalo is pretty porous against their line is okay, but they give up a lot of fantasy points to the running back position. And they're only kind of middling against pass catching running backs, which means they're 15th in the league against pass catching running backs. To me, I think this is a Montgomery day. But I've been wrong on these two guys before. But I'll have ownership in both of these guys simply because it's going to be difficult to determine how they scheme. But I could see Gibbs going off, like with Raz there. I could see him going off. And then I could actually see Montgomery going off too. But Montgomery's getting pricey, $7K. So,
yeah. The one thing I will say, I do have James Cook exposure. It doesn't make sense from a metric standpoint, but I need to have some exposure from a DFS will just piss you off for no reason perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the highest total game, and that's the only reason I have like 2 to 3% exposure. But you're right, the matchup is brutal. He hasn't been good. He hasn't been getting the touchdowns, but that's the kind of shit that would happen just to piss us all off. Savage. Oh, some fighting in the chat. Didn't realize that was going on.
What did you just put up there?
Wait,
yeah,
what?
I want to show the drama going on. All right. Yeah, that Denver weather is a little worrisome. Yankee said best single entry stack. We touched on that, bud. Njoku's out, Conklin out, Hall in. Thank you for that. Appreciate that call. What do you normally put the randomization percentage at? For me, it will change a little bit each slate. Tattoo, where are you at today?
I just crank it up to 50.
What about you, Raz?
I am somewhere in the 40s right now.
Okay.
I base it off of what it's doing to my wide receiver pool. Like if it's spreading it out way too much, then I want to drop the number down a little bit.
Yeah. What about you, Burns?
Yeah, I'm in the same group as you guys.
Yeah, I'm with Raz on this. I'll adjust it based off of. I literally always just make changes to the DS as I see. If I want to see, am I seeing what I want to see in these lines? And so, yeah, right now I'm at 30. And I like what I have, so I'm not really feeling like I need to make any crazy adjustments there. All right. We touched on this, William. Jets D. Brandon, I see you, man. B-Dubs is the coach here at DFS Army. He also is just great at multiple DFS sports. Football Jesus said Chase Brown or Cook. Jones killed Detroit twice. Raz? Brown or Cook?
The obvious one for me is Chase Brown.
Yeah.
We know Chase Brown's going to touch the ball a ton. We don't know how many touches James Cook's going to get. I do like playing Cook because he basically rested last week, right? Like he just didn't touch the ball hardly at all. And we know how explosive he is, but I think Chase Brown's just the smarter play.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to agree with that. All right, let's ban some of the spam that's in the chat. Yes, if you all could smash that like button, that would be very much so appreciated. Just got here. Any interest in Ruckert from the Jets with Conklin out? Raz, you think about him at all?
I looked very briefly after the announcement, and I can tell you I have zero interest in Ruckert.
Okay.
I mean, I generally just don't have a lot of interest in tight ends with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, understandable. And
So.
I feel like, does anyone here like Ruckert? I feel like no one's gonna like him.
I never heard of him.
I didn't get there either.
I mean, Burns should like him. He went to Ohio State, I think.
He was good with Ohio State. I don't
definitely
mind.
don't like him.
Automatic X. No, I'm kidding. I'm not playing him.
Uncheck.
Yep. Is Robinson Jr. okay in the same lineup with Daniels? Burns, you touched on this already.
Yeah, I actually have a lineup with him with Daniels. So it's Scary Terry and Brian Robinson in that lineup. So I don't mind it at all. Brian Robinson can actually, he is a pass catching running back. Not as much as other really, really good pass catching running backs, but he does have the ability to pass catch run, and he can actually score via it. So in today's game, I think that's a good way that they're going to move the ball against New Orleans.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I didn't get any lines with Robinson Jr. with Daniels in my 150, but I wouldn't have made a rule against it for the reasons Burns mentioned. What about the Bucks defense? Raz, did you look at them at all?
I didn't really look at them. They're probably going to be a team that just shows up. But I have a feeling they're not really going to show up all that much. Part of the reason why I don't think they project all that well is like the Chargers are a slower paced offense. Less plays for the defense to be up against to make plays, to pay off for us. Just one that probably wasn't going to show up very much for anybody.
Fair. Don't disagree. David said, "What's up, guys? Sunday Night Football, please and thank you." Raz, I'll go right back to you with this because I believe you play on FanDuel on occasion. Do you have any plays specifically from that not Jets, but Green Bay Seattle game?
Go back to Charbonnet again. I don't really want to chase what he did exactly, but I like the spot. I think Love probably plays pretty well. The problem is can you pinpoint who to play with him? Christian Watson probably is due for, some 60-yard touchdown or something at some point. So he's kind of my flyer wide receiver in that game. And then on the other side, JSN just keeps doing it, even though I keep playing DK Metcalf over him. He just keeps outperforming DK. So those are kind of the names that I'd be looking at from that game.
All right. And I think those all make sense. I think Love is the only play I would have probably forced in to make sure I have some stacks because there's a lot of upside there. But outside of that, it's hard for me to get overly excited about it. Oh, boy. Look what you did, Tattoo. Look what you've done.
What did I do?
This was you. Ken Knief. This was Locked Rodgers and Faded Chuba.
No. I didn't mention Rodgers. That was Raz.
Oh, wait. Raz, this is your doing? You caused this?
I mean, Rodgers, yes. I'm not fading Chuba, though, but
Chuba. Chuba. You gotta respect the name. He's got a little Chuba in there. All right. Willis said Downs, Cooper, or Hopkins. I think we're probably all saying Cooper. But I know you mentioned Cooper first, Raz, so I'll give you the question again.
Yeah, it's Cooper for me.
All right. Burns, what are your thoughts?
Downs, Cooper, Hopkins. Yeah, Cooper.
Tattoo, you with us too, or are you getting different?
Mini Cooper.
All right. See, not everyone's talking about Ruckert, and we all said we don't like him. He's definitely getting a touchdown now. Maybe I'll include him in my Rodgers stacks, but he's not showing up so far.
Just don't include him in
Cedric
your touchdown parlay.
Oh, God. Honestly, that I would prefer that instead of DFS, though, to be honest. Ricardo said Saquon. We haven't talked about him. I'm not playing him today. Are you, Tattoo?
No.
Burns, you playing Saquon?
No.
Raz, you getting different?
Yep.
Of course you are.
I'm going to probably sprinkle 6% or so in. He's just a guy that I don't think it really matters what the matchup is. He can just explode anywhere.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I can get that upside and nobody wants to play him?
Yeah. That's a good
tough for me
point
to
too. I didn't force exposure to Barkley, but he is showing up naturally around 6%, but I don't love it, to be honest. How viable is Tim Patrick? Burns, are you seeing Tim Patrick show up at all for you?
I hope not. I don't know. I'm just gonna stick to the Amon Ra and William and Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I have 1%, and it's in a Jared Goff. It's in 2 Jared Goff stacks. What about you, Tattoo? You looking at Tim Patrick?
I am not.
Yeah, understandably so. Let's see here. Fryermuth or Henry? Tattoo?
Henry.
Or I think he means Hunter Henry. So like Hunter Henry or Fryer.
Yeah. That's right.
Henry. What about you, Burns?
Yeah, I'll go Henry.
Okay. Jason said along the lines of high upside receivers, thoughts on Neighbors and Waddle. Burns, I'll go right back to you on this. What are your thoughts here?
I like the game environment for Waddle more, but Malik Neighbors can go off at any time. He's got that ability, so I don't really mind if you have him in your player pool. But for me, Waddle would be the better play because of the environment.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you on that. How do you feel about Tua? And is this Jameson Williams or is it another name for Watts? And I don't know. Raz, am I missing something here?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is you meant Janu, but I don't.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I like Tua. Tua's the guy I was going to mention as my second single entry quarterback when we talked about Rodgers earlier. Like it'd be Rodgers or Tua was top of my list. So I'm all about Tua. The way that he's throwing the football right now, just ridiculously well. So stack him with one of the 3 main guys. I know people are going to ask about Washington and I don't know, some River Craycraft even. I don't know. But to me, it's just Hill, Waddle, or Janu.
Okay. Mr. Torrin said, thoughts on Connor over Chalky Chubbard? Burns, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a viable pivot, right? You're going to lower your ownership in Chuba Hubbard, and you're getting a decent pivot there. But, is Connor actually going to explode in this game where he's going to pay off salary? I don't know. Connor has been just so-so lately this year, so I'm not 100% sure if he's going to blow up or not.
Yeah. Tattoo, do you have any strong opinions here?
I really like Connor. I have quite a bit of him, but I have almost as much Hubbard. So, but I mean, I do like the pivot. But I think Chuba's probably going to smash.
Yeah.
So,
golly, I feel like I might be in for a lot of pain today. I don't know. The more I think about it, I really like Chuba Hubbard, but the pivot to James Conner, only 100 more, 15% less ownership, looks good. I was saying I might be in for some pain because this is the first time the Panthers have been favorites in forever, and it's kind of weird going into a game expecting a win, but it's going to be painful. But let's see. Anthony Hunt said Lamar, Hurts, Allen, or Burrow. You missed the right answer. It's Jaden Daniels, but that's just my opinion. Tattoo, who do you like here in this group?
in order, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Hurts.
Okay. What about you, Raz?
It's probably Allen. I have Lamar second. The only one of the 4 that I'm not playing in any slate is actually Jalen Hurts today.
Yeah, I'm also not playing any of them. I'm just playing Daniels. What about you, Burns?
I'm not playing any Lamar at all today, and I'm not playing Jalen Hurts. So I'll have some Allen, but I'll have more Burrow.
Yeah. All right. Ertz is a fine play, especially with Daniels. Do we like Alan Lazard or Noah Gray? For me, that's going to be a hard pass. What about you, Raz? Any thoughts on these two?
I'll take Lazard, I guess, over. But I just don't like the weather now in Cleveland. So, like, I'm pushing myself away from a lot of guys from Kansas City and even Cleveland. So,
okay. All right. Josh said, is Josh Downs a good pick with Michael Pittman? Should be locked down. Okay, since Michael Pittman should be locked down, I'm following you. I think Josh Downs is a fine play today. I don't think he's bad by any means. What are you thinking about when it comes to Downs, Raz?
I think he's fine. Obviously, gets the better matchup. I'm just not using Richardson at all. So, like, I'm just not going to end up with a lot of guys from Indy.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. I like Downs and I like Pierce this week, but I didn't get Richardson, so they didn't show up in too many of my lines, unfortunately. Any interest for Hurts and Brown against Pittsburgh? No one's been interested, unfortunately, but yeah, I just like some of the other guys a bit more. Burns, we touched on this already, Andrew. Nice. Okay, good stuff. John said Carolina defense or Browns defense. Tattoo, what are your thoughts here?
I guess the Browns defense, just because of the weather and possible turnovers, and I mean, Cooper Rush isn't some turnover machine. He's kind of safe with the football.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Dallas is just some turnover, opportunity. So
true. All right. And then I know some of us have talked about Knicks. Is anyone less interested in Knicks because of the weather? Burns, I think you were the one who mentioned Knicks, right?
Bo Nix. Yeah, I haven't heard of the weather in Denver, so I'm not really. I'm playing them, so.
Yeah. For me, I was triple the field on Knicks. I'm now close to double the field. And he's at 3% ownership, so you can do the math. I'm a little bit less aggressive on him than I was, but I'm still going to play him. All right. So many spam bots in chat today, and I was behind on catching them. All right, y'all. We're at that part of the show. Wow, John, that was just rude. Right here at the end, that was unnecessary. All right, we're at the end. We'll talk through some of our favorite sneaky plays. But before we do that, we'll do the anytime touchdown props. Tattoo, I'll start with you.
Ramondre Stevenson.
All right. Not starting with chalk early. I feel like that's rare for us. Raz, what about you?
I will be going with the chalk. Derrick Henry plays football today, so I will take Derrick Henry to score a touchdown.
That
I had to make up for that minus 200.
That ruined the entire parlay right there from making actual money. But all right, Burns, who's your guy?
Maybe I can make up for it, and we can get some plus in here. I'll go Joe Mixon.
Okay, Joe Mixon. And I almost really messed this up by putting Thielen in there, but I'm not going to do that to us. I then wanted to do Marvin Harrison Jr., but I'm not going to do that to us. But I'll stick with Chuba and keep it safe. Chuba Hubbard will get a touchdown today. That's a good one. That's a good one right there.
I like that.
All right. And then let's see. Favorite low-owned sneaky play. Raz, I'll start with you on this. Who are you liking? Who are you looking at?
Oh, boy.
And you can do by position. We have time. It's kind of like
all
below
right.
10%, below 8%.
All right. We'll look at my Obviously, it's Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for me, since I've talked about it a few times. Ramondre at running back, and then somebody we haven't mentioned at all, sneaky Jonathan Taylor. He's been getting 20 to 25 touches. And if the weather is bad, maybe. Wide receiver, I already talked about Amari Cooper. I'm going to add in Jalen McMillan as well. Attention paid by the Chargers to Mike Evans. I think McMillan has some upside in that spot.
Bobby liked him too.
Really? I didn't catch it. So, yeah, I just like McMillan. He's explosive enough for them. Tight end, with the way that he's been playing, I can't believe he's not higher. I'm going to take Jonnu Smith at under 4% on DraftKings.
Yeah, I made sure I'm at least around 3 to 4%. I was like, I can't have none of them. Burns, who are you looking at?
Quarterback position, I would say today I'll have good amount of ownership in Joe Burrow, as well as Jaden Daniels. Those guys I'll have a good amount of ownership in. Let's see, at the running back position, I think the lower owned guy is B-Rob today. I also think the two Detroit Lions running backs are in really good spots at low ownership today. Bucky Irving is expected to play, so that's going to be interesting. Wide receiver, low-owned guy today, Garrett Wilson, as well as Scary Terry. And then at the tight end position, I think low ownership. It's weird. Could actually be. I would say probably Jake Ferguson at 6.5% ownership, but also Travis Kelce at 4.5% ownership. And then at the defense, I said them before, the Houston Texans.
Okay. And then Tattoo. Who are you looking at?
This is low ownership each position.
Yep.
I mean, Bo Nix, 3% ownership. Or Cooper Rush.
Forgot that was one of your calls. Okay.
Running backs. Stevenson, I like. Wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. And Mark Andrews, tight end.
Okay. I thought you were going to pull out Jake Ferguson again because you were really going heavy on those Cowboys. But all right.
Yeah, Eagles defense.
And Raz, do you have a defense? Because I know I cut you off a little bit there.
The one that I'll be highest on that's low enough owned will be Cleveland. I don't think our projected ownership is right on them, based on how they're going to show up in optimizers, and they are super cheap. So if they are 6%, I'm going to be happy to be, 2.5x the field.
Yeah, fair. And yeah, I'm with you. They're my highest owned defense, so we'll see. For me, low owned quarterback, I'm right there with Burns on Daniels. Really like him this week. And then if not him, Bryce Young or Jared Goff. I do really like Bryce this week, though, as my sneaky play, so I'll just take the stand there. And then for running back, it's going to be Gibbs, and I like Stevenson a lot, too, so I know someone else mentioned that. And then for wideouts, Jameson Williams is really that guy for me, just like a lot of guys, and Scary Terry. And then tight end position, right now, it's Ferguson and Schultz as like low-owned guys that I'm significantly over the field on. And we already talked about the Browns, but if not the Browns, the Broncos, I'm also very over the field on as well. All right, so that's the show, everyone. Appreciate y'all for sticking with us. Sammy, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to you as well. Not quite yet, maybe next week, but See you all soon, but hope you all have a good one. Hopefully we're celebrating in the Discord tonight. Burns, I feel like if you have a good slate, I'll have a good slate. We're in a lot of the same place, which isn't always the case, but good luck, y'all. See y'all later. Bye.
No, diamonds in my teeth, I got a lot of shine.